You probably know about something called analog horror, a subgenre of horror in which everything revolves around retro technologies of the last century, mainly cassettes. This style appeared at the turn of the 2000s and 2010s on YouTube, and reached its peak popularity somewhere in the very beginning of the 2020s. At first, we had some famous analog horror series like The Walton Files, FNAF VHS, Monument Myths, and of course, the Mandela Catalog. However, at some point, this subgenre became so popular that it went beyond series and found footage videos. That's how analog horror comes into the games. You've definitely seen those short, old-style games somewhere on the internet. They usually have graphics inspired by PlayStation 1 or 2, a VHS filter, and are based on some routine activities with something dark hiding nearby. Well, actually, there are tons of creative ideas in such projects. Due to the specificity of analog horror, sometimes the menace isn't even noticeable, while the atmosphere is working to the fullest, creeping out the player. Possibly some of the best games in this subgenre are No Players Online and Bad Parenting. Well, from what I know. But the problem is that there have been way too much analog horror content both among games and on YouTube in the last few years. People got pretty tired of this genre, and it began to stagnate. In this video, we have another PS1 horror, the game called Channel 64, that came out pretty recently. I'll tell you about the story, gameplay, atmosphere, etc. But what's more important, this short game can help us find out why analog horror is getting so mediocre and how authors can fix it. Hit the subscribe button, like this video, and let's start. Channel 64 is a 3D indie horror game made by Russian developer Zedix. In it, our goal is to digitize VHS cassettes in a small office while facing some scary anomalies. Everything starts while entering a dark, deserted basement full of small rooms. As our protagonist states, it's their new job. Some of the doors, however, are locked. So we go to the boss's office and we find a note with the necessary passwords. Although, if we open a drawer, we may find another number that can be used to open a safe with a camera inside. But we don't need that yet. We open our room and get a call from our chief, who tells us that we have to watch and digitize the VHS tapes that will fall from a small elevator and then put them on the shelf in storage. Without waiting, we get to work. The first cassette falls from the hole in the wall and we insert it into the player. It's a weird Japanese snack ad with a dog walking on its two hind legs. Disturbing, yeah, but not really creepy. The second tape is another ad for some kitchen device. Nothing scary as well. However, starting with the third tape, the recordings are different. The third cassette is a short footage of some unknown empty location, and the fourth one is a glitchy outdoor recording of a house with smoke coming out of the chimney. The fifth one is a dimly lit corridor covered in traces of blood. In the end, there's a dark human silhouette standing completely still, and then, when the tape is seemingly over, a distorted face appears on the screen. After that, the protagonist states that they just need to use the toilet. Well, after what we just saw, we can't blame them. Also, I find it very funny that we can just, piss on the walls and the floor. That's just so random for this game and might relax the player before the real horror begins. When we return to our office, a tall, dark, crooked figure appears right before us just for a second. From that moment, the game gets even darker. The next VHS tape is a jerky and intermittent recording of some streets and rooms. After that, we have a very important cassette. It starts showing us a dark room with a TV on the table. Then we observe an unknown entity that looks pretty similar to the one we've already faced. The logo at the beginning represents a certain company called Archive Division. The next tape starts similarly to the previous one, but very soon we hear a voice telling us that God won't help us as a creepy white face takes over the screen. Soon, we hear another whisper, "Behind you," followed by the approaching sound of footsteps. When we attempt to put the cassette in storage, another entity jumps out at us right out of the closet, disappearing quickly. It's short, on all fours, and has the face we just saw on the tape. Anyway, we keep digitizing the tapes. The next one is a famous internet video known as the Green Room, or a rocking chair. In the original, there's a jump scare, but here it's missing. I have no idea if the false expectation effect was planned or the developer just used a popular video. As for me, this part kinda looks not authentic in the game. The next tapes show us an abandoned building, railways with a tram, the familiar distorted face, some dark basement, and a music video interrupted by a creepy dark face and a heavy sound of breathing. At this moment, it becomes clear that the sides of the cassettes, which were put on the shelf, form an image of a labyrinth, and we'd better place them in the right order, because we're gonna need this map in a few moments. When we insert the last tape, another disfigured face appears on the screen and the protagonist decides to run. Through the storage room, we climb into a ventilation system and have to find the second exit in a minute. That's where the map helps us. If we previously set all the cassettes in the right order, we already know our way through the ventilation instead of crawling around disoriented. Finally, we pick up the VHS camera we already unlocked earlier. Well, it could be unlocked now, too. That doesn't matter. So with the camera in our hands, we rush to the security office to find the entity on the video surveillance camera's monitors. Determining the location of the monster, we enter the right room and digitize it with the camera. After that, a newspaper is being shown, telling about the arrest of our boss, Brian Morris, who's now been accused of having at least 4 victims like us. That's all. Yeah, as I said from the beginning, Channel 64 is a short game, yet I can't deny its strengths. The game has such a great vibe. The atmosphere given by the PS1 Horror style is working to the fullest here. It is that subtle feeling inherent in such games where you're both pressured by the environment and given a sense of comfort in this monotonous work. Talking about the horror part, well, completely depends on how resistant you are to such content. The atmosphere is good, the design of the entities is pretty disturbing, but, it almost feels a little bit lacking. That's where we return to the analog horror stagnation problem I stated at the beginning of the video. The game itself is really enjoyable, however, it lacks some actually creative ideas. Believe it or not, a concept very similar to Channel 64 even came to me when I was preparing a project for university before I even knew about this game at all. This idea is floating on the surface, especially when we already have the Mandela catalog, with, again, some malicious entities living in TVs. And popular images being used as a kind of jump scare does not help. When I play the game, focusing on creepy footage and atmosphere, and then I suddenly see a familiar, scary picture from Pinterest, it immediately knocks me out of immersion. Don't get me wrong, I like this game, and I really love the whole analog horror. But I understand that the genre needs something new. I think that the authors had better experiment more with some new YouTube videos, games, or any other content. It's okay to focus on quality instead of quantity, to think everything through to the end. If there's less analog horror content, but it gets better, I think we can still save the genre from stagnation. The same goes for the PlayStation 1 style horror. We need something new and creative to keep this really cool direction from stagnating. Well, that's all for now. Like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. See you soon. Bye!